I'm Friar Mario Serrano.
My name is Iliana Ortiz.
My name is Fabian Marquez.
My name is Lizette Garza.
My name is Claudia Hernandez.
My name is Andrea Castillos.
I'm the University Minister for the Diocese of El Paso.
I am 25 years old. I go to UTIP primarily for my Bachelor of Social Work.
I'm 26 years old. I am, I guess, still considered a recent UTEP grad. Graduated with my master's in rehabilitation counseling.
I did a bachelor's in biology with a minor in nutrition.
I go to UTEP. I'm studying special education.
I'm 23 years old and I am a student at UTEP. I'm currently double majoring in multimedia journalism and digital media production.
I chose priesthood and Franciscan life, and within the life of the priesthood and religious life of Franciscan is we're basically told, we're looked at our gifts and our talents, and we're basically asked or told and said, we would like you to consider working with university students. I myself have been doing it for a decade, so others think that I'm good at it, and I'm confirmed, or I guess it's confirmed by others, but why I do it, personally, I would say that it's because I get to see the transformation within university students, going from perhaps uncertain of who they're being called to be, to then proclaiming loudly who they are or who they want to be within life and what they want to dedicate their life to, whether it's a career, a community, a person. And so it's always a joy to see that transformation within the university students, but also within the community of university students. On the border, I think it's a community that's misunderstood many times. I myself, I would say, am neither from here nor there. My father was deported in 2010, so he lives in Juarez, and I think the messiness of the wall makes relationships quite difficult. And so it's community here in the border that's speaking boldly of who we are, and that a wall cannot separate us from who we love. And hopefully, like the Berlin Wall, one day we will see it fall.
And raised here in El Paso. So basically, my dad was born in Juarez. My birth mom was born in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. But I was raised by my dad's sister, so she was also born in Juarez. Past years, I would definitely say it was very community-based. You really could feel at peace wherever you went. But I think that also was because primarily we're Hispanics, or most of us are from Juarez, or we know family from Juarez. So that was a way for us to connect with other people. Also, the language, Spanish is very, very well known here in El Paso. I think most people, I don't know what percentage, but most people do speak Spanish. So you could get along with people really easily if they didn't speak one or the other, English or Spanish. But definitely in past years, we've grown in the different types of ethnicities that we have here in El Paso.
Been born and raised in El Paso. My parents are immigrants. Well, specifically more my mom. So my dad is from Juarez, but also Miyoki, Chihuahua. I love traveling, but I always see myself coming back to El Paso, and I've tried to envision myself living somewhere else, and I can't. And I know there's so many different places with an ocean view where there's snow and rain sometimes and all the time, and here we have a lot of heat. Sometimes we have some snow, and we have our beautiful mountains. But I just love El Paso, not just because of the scenery, but the people. I think that I've been blessed to be able to live here just because, like I said, my mom, she's an immigrant, an illegal immigrant, or she was an illegal immigrant. And my dad, thankfully, he had a smoother path into residency, but he was still an immigrant either way. Even if, if you come in with a legal residency, you're still an immigrant. So I think that I've been able to see how blessed I am to live in a community that accepts immigration and that accepts just like different cultures, because we do have a high Hispanic population, and you can tell, but we have so many different cultures in here, and I think it's amazing that we're all very welcoming.
I was born and raised in Juarez, but now I live here. You could say it's two cultures, but it's kind of like one, because we are forced to coexist. And I guess people like me that do cross, because I understand there are people from both cities that have never crossed the border, but for people like me that cross every day, I'm so used to it, and I thought it was so normal. And a few years ago, I went studying abroad to South America. So when I went there, I explained my situation, because they were like, wait, so are you from the US or are you from Mexico? Like, how? So I explained it to them, and they were so out of their mind. Like, they couldn't understand it. It was so difficult for them. They were like, so you study in Mexico? Because I studied my whole life in Mexico. I just came here to the US for my college. And they were like, so you study in Mexico and you live in the US, and you're planning to study in the US, but then you go all the time to Mexico. It's like, how does it work? And we are sister cities, El Paso and Juarez, and what I used to say was like, it's kind of like the same city, but you have the, I don't know, like code switch. You just cross the border and you're in another country. You pay in pesos instead of dollars, and everything's the same. It's just, I mean, it just changes a little bit.
Come and visit rather than simply look at the media and the mystery of, I think at times, how it's seen. And so the mystery of the wall, I think, and the political stance that people have within it. So I would definitely come and tell them to come and encounter a living desert, right? That we're more than just this iron that's being put that separates two countries, that we're a community, one community that is seeking to continue to interact daily with each other.
NBC News Special Report. Here's Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good afternoon. An update now on that deadly shooting near a busy shopping mall in El Paso, Texas. It happened at a Walmart.
El Paso llora. Al menos 20 personas muertas, 26 heridas y una comunidad latina de luto.
I think that so much has happened that it's kind of causing a snowball effect, and it's making us realize just how much is really going on in the world. You know, dating with the events that happened August 3rd or August 5th, I'm sorry, we kind of start by realizing a couple of things. One, hatred is real, right? Hatred is real. Two, El Paso is supposed to be a city that nothing like this happens, right? Like, why El Paso? Who would have thought that something like that would have happened here, and why us? And I think that it's a reminder that there's so many different perspectives, so many different worldviews outside of the little bubble that we have here in El Paso that we don't even realize. You know, we have an individual who drove hours, literal hours, with a gun in his trunk all the way to our humble little city just to execute this plan of hatred. And people don't realize, but that's more real in other people's life than we even think about.
It was a really, really horrible thing that happened. And I mean, I hope that teaches people to not take their life for granted and to do something about it. Because I mean, it could be one of us there. I was in El Paso, yeah. Like, actually, my aunt was in that Walmart. Yeah, but she was, I mean, it was horrible. She was like in the back, so she didn't even notice until like everything, like people started yelling and like that. Yeah. So I wasn't there, but still, it was, I don't know, it was horrible. I felt so threatened, and I guess everyone felt that way. It was horrible.
Well, for our city, I think like it's a lot to handle, especially because of the shooting, and everybody like in this city, like everybody knows somebody somehow. Like we're all like connected somehow, just because like our like I guess like we're kind of like a big family, and so it like affected everyone. And I guess we haven't all gone through with this, and then like so when it was weird to like go outside and there's like no cars. And so the last time I saw that when during the pandemic and when everyone was in quarantine, there was like nobody on the streets, and it reminded me of when like the shooting happened and there was like nobody on the streets. It was like a ghost town.
As many times you do get stressed and you do maybe perhaps carry the burdens. For me, one of the most difficult, I would say personally, hurt me, I would say that I really had to deal with it and think about it, pray about it, but even contemplate whether it was time to go back into counseling was after the August 3rd shootings here in El Paso, encountering those who were at the Walmart, who perhaps were shot, little ones that saw, blood all over themselves and were just simply raped, I would say, because their face said that, right? They were raped of their innocence when someone came and did such a violent act, and that was very painful. I actually would drive home after being present to them. I would drive home and would begin to cry, and would have to call a friend and just have that network of people, and then would spend time in the chapel before and after being with the people there. And I think that's something that we have to always be aware of our own needs, and also know that the life can really get you exhausted, especially the tragedy of life. But remind ourselves of the hope, right? Is seeing beyond the current situation and then making our way towards that and holding on to that this isn't the end of the story.
Ustedes, queridos jóvenes, no son el futuro. Nos gusta decir, ustedes son el futuro. No, son el presente. No son el futuro de Dios. Ustedes, jóvenes, son el ahora de Dios.
The youth is the future, and it is the now. It's the future because, they're the ones that are going to become the leaders of tomorrow, and they're the now because they're the ones that are already making the changes. And I think we can see that a lot in the protests that are happening right now. The youth is taking a big role in trying to make a big change, and not just each community, but in people's own perspective. And it's something that they see it's necessary for the progress of humanity, and I completely agree with it. As someone that has grown in the church, it's understandable. It is, well, at least in my culture where I come from, younger people, they can be a little bit more ignorant, or they can be on because they don't know. And it comes hand in hand with, yes, I'm young and I don't know, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. The youth needs to be understood a little bit more. It needs to be protected, and it needs to be valued, as somebody that can teach us something. It's how it is, everybody has something else to bring to the table. Sometimes it's going to be from an adult, sometimes it's going to be from a child, sometimes it's going to be from a teenager. We should not close our eyes to someone's intellect or ability to teach us something because of their age, because of their race, etc.
There was always a gap between those individuals that managed the church, and you can tell just how conservative and how it almost seemed like you were joining the church, but they made us youth kind of feel like, if you're not going to do it this way, then we don't want you here. And so that was one of the reasons why after I did my confirmation, I kind of drifted a little bit from the church. But it wasn't until college that I kind of sought my faith on my own, that I really was able to connect with people who were like-minded. One thing that I always keep in mind, and I've heard that before, that the youth is not the future but the now of the church, because in reality a lot of change is happening around the world. And going back to what I was mentioning about this conservative Catholic view, it's going to be a lot harder for those older generations to understand and to fully grasp.
So I love that the Pope is saying that we are not the future, we are the now, because it's true, we are the now. We're the ones that are growing up and teaching those like younger than us and sometimes older than us what our faith is. So I do love that he says that. And then the whole part about sometimes that with that being said, the youth is still sometimes pushed aside. I actually do, sadly, and it breaks my heart to say it, but I do think that sometimes it does happen. Not all the time and not in every community, not in every church, but I think it does happen. And it's really, I say it's sad and heartbreaking because I've lived through it.
People in power aren't young people, and honestly, whatever they're doing, it's not gonna show until probably they're gone. So if we start focusing on brand new and young and fresh ideas of people who are going to be part of that new future, I think maybe we could have another perspective, because they usually say that maybe young people have ideas but they don't have the experience. But that's just like a toxic cycle of not letting young people gain experience because they're young and they don't have experience. So how are they going to gain experience if you don't even let them be part of the decision that it's clearly going to affect them in the future? Because those young people are going to grow, they're going to become they're already part of society, but they're probably going to have kids. Every decision that a person who's probably 80 right now making those decisions, young people are going to be affected directly. So I feel like right now it opens the floor to have a conversation with maybe your parents that probably maybe you could never have, because they're always like, you can't, like, you have to respect your elders, like you can't even question them. An idea is an idea, whoever it comes from, it doesn't matter, it's an idea. So, and it's okay to question the people in charge, like even in your own family. I mean, respectfully, you can question your parents, and I think that's a way of having a healthy relationship with someone.
You are the now. Young adults are the now, and I would say that we must listen to the youth, especially right now during this midst of the pandemic. It has been the youth that have been able to help the older, maybe priests, friars, religious, to get involved into the technology, into the virtual world that is very much part of our world, right? It's not inauthentic, but there can be authentic encounters as well within that. And it's very much amazing to see. And I would say that the Pope Francis says that you are the now, the church of today, because he's been able to witness the amazing young adults, teens that gather for World Youth Days, that gather within the synod of young people, and to speak prophetically to the church, telling them that this is how we are living our faith, and this is how we're called to live it, and are very much becoming the young Francises, the Clares, the young saints that we've encountered or that we've witnessed throughout history. The young are very much those saints today, calling us to move forward. And as Pope Francis says in his letter to the young people, he says, run, but also be patient with us who at times are slow to catch up. Just wait for us. Give us your hand so that we can then truly follow where you're leading and where you're taking the church.
With this generation, like anything you do is judged. Like if you're fat, you're judged. If you're skinny, you're judged. Like if you have long hair, you're judged. If you have short hair, you're judged. If you have tattoos or piercings or don't, you're judged. It's just like with these generations, it's just like judged by your every move. So like a lot of people feel conscious. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but they just like feel super insecure. And people are gonna judge me if I talk about God, or they're gonna think I'm a geek and blah blah. It's just like every move is judged.
I'm a believer that everyone is accepted at church, no matter your background, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your gender expression, your taste in music, your background. I am a high believer that, you know, we're all created in the image of God, and you know, because of things maybe you think that you don't belong, but I'm like, no, God created us to love all of us and love each other. I'm a high believer in that, and that's truly what I believe. And it's hard sometimes because I understand where youth is coming from, because again, of those maybe older generations, or even some generations now that might be more conservative or not. And I don't think God calls us to be conservative, liberal, or anything of that. He just calls us to love one another.
Yeah, our church, for some reason throughout history, got so tied up within this word that we call sin, or sinful actions. And the gospel, that's what I'm called to live, is the gospel life. That's what Francis wanted to live. Is not about approaching you and telling you that you are living your life wrong, but it's about going towards anyone and everyone and reminding them that they are made to love. My best definition for sin is the failure to bother to love. The failure to bother to love is sin. So if we simply, truly seek to be in a loving relationship with God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you know, we will become who we're called to be, and we shouldn't get so worked up on the labels that at times we will throw on to ourselves, or that others throw on to us. Whether you are gay, straight, Latino, Black, African, you know, from wherever you are within the world, is that your response is to respond to God's love, to the one who created us. And we ourselves are then called to grow in acceptance and in the mystery of who God has created you to be, because God himself, God's self, herself is a mystery, and we are all participants in that mystery of great love. Speak up, make a mess, right? Francis has said that. Pope Francis has says, make a mess, right? Is continue to challenge the norm. We can get comfortable in the status quo. We can get comfortable in the normality of what we think life is made all about. Is seek joy. Seek the joy within your faith. Seek the joy that hope can bring to you. And in seeking that, we then encounter God in one another, encounter God in unexpected places, to be able to then truly proclaim to the humanity and to the world that we're one.
You have to believe that He is there with you, because He is. Even if you think that you're alone, you're not. So keep fighting. Keep fighting the good fight, and don't give up.
To never lose hope. No matter how hard it gets, just remember that someone's looking out for you.
Don't get pushed down. Just keep pushing up. Don't stop fighting. Don't stop being who you are, and grow into that person that you want to become from all of these different things that happen.
It's not only about speaking up for yourself, but to also speak up for people who don't have that right. And I think it's so important.
We just need to be patient with this, and I guess keep our mind off of it too, and just do what we can and be as positive as we can, and be there for whoever doesn't have it anymore.